Let's see.
Yeah.
Come on, come on. It says that we're streaming. Oh, here we go. Come on, come on. It says that we're streaming. Oh, here we go. Come on. That's the whole stream. Okay. Has the live stream started on YouTube?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. All right. Then we can start.
Dun dun dun.
Dun, dun, dun. Welcome to BTS Book Club for the month of September. This month's book was Alice's Adventures in Wonderland by Lewis Carroll, often just called Alice in Wonderland. So, hopefully you read the book and enjoyed the book. And if you didn't, no trouble. Just join in anyway. And you can interact with us on YouTube comments, Twitter comments, where else are we? Band, the Band app, or you can come and join us on Discord, as we have had some people do in the past. Yeah, so welcome to the book club. I am admin S, and just something quickly about me for those who are newer to the book club. I'm from Australia, in case you can't tell from my accent, and I have been living and working in Korea for 4 years now. And with us today we have admin MC, and admin RG, and admin AM. So why don't you guys say hi?
Hello. I'm still screwing around with this Periscope. Hi, I'm RJ.
Hi, I'm MC. I'm from Southern USA. Yay!
Hello, I'm AM. And I don't know.
It's okay. And we are your friendly book club librarians, also known as admins. And today's icebreaker is, if the members of BTS were characters from books, who would they be and why?
From any book?
Yeah, it could be from any book, doesn't have to be from something we've read. For me,
I think like Jungkook would be Harry Potter. He just has that. I think he slept in the closet, didn't he? Like the closet bedroom, side bedroom. And he just has that like the one who lives kind of feel about him.
Yeah. Jimin for me, and this one has been kind of, a lot of people think this, but for me, like The Little Prince He
No,
just
yeah.
seems to have that kind of like just that quality
That's
about
it.
him. Mm.
Mm-hmm.
It
Kind of
just
soft and sense of wonder.
yeah, yeah, curious and happy and just very kind.
Mm-hmm.
Mm. Um.
I think I think I just had a crazy idea.
Mm?
Yeah.
Team would be Leo Valdez from
Be
Percy
who?
Jackson. Leo Valdez.
Oh, okay.
Because he's always making jokes and jokes about himself.
Mhm.
That's a good one. What about? It's hard to think of some of the others because like Sugar is very intense.
Mhm.
Yoongi is very intense. And the only intense kind of like book characters that I know of are like Professor Snape from like Harry Potter, but I wouldn't really say that is Yoongi.
That's a hard one.
Like the tough love.
Yeah, we gotta stop using Harry Potter.
um,
We've read other books, we swear.
Lots of others. I think.
Uh, yeah, Sugar's the kind of guy that's like, I like the ending of Infinity War. What kind of book character is like that? I'm trying to think.
um, I think. Huh. When it comes to J-Hope, because he's such a happy, like he's such a really like bright, bubbly, sees the best in everything kind of personality. That's how he comes across. Um, there's a um, there's a character in actually it's Pride and Prejudice. There's a character called Mr. Bingley, and he just is this very happy, jolly character who always wants to see the best in anyone, no matter where they're from or what the status is. And that kind of reminds me a little bit of J-Hope.
Mm-hmm.
Um, not perfect, not perfectly, but yeah. I don't know. I think Jungkook and Jimin are the easiest ones to do this for.
Yeah.
It's not easy. Yeah, I
Actually,
thought.
didn't do my
Oh, sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead.
didn't do my homework.
Do you have one?
I did do like Harry Potter characters.
There's so many characters in those books, so it's so much easier than some other books.
It's a lot more fun to just take one and then say which one they are
Mm,
in
mm,
that one story.
yeah.
Ah,
What about if they were out of like the Alice in Wonderland stories?
Wow.
well, I was during the Mad Tea Party. I just imagine Jungkook as the dormouse because he's always falling asleep and people are playing with him.
I feel like that's
He
kind of
just stays
Sugar, because
asleep.
Sugar loves to sleep.
Yeah, he
Sugar
loves to sleep.
Yeah.
Um, I feel like the caterpillar, because he's very philosophical and he asks all
Hmm.
these existential. I feel like that's like RM.
Yeah.
Like, like I can just imagine him there on the mushroom, thinking about
I
life
could.
and the big questions.
And just contradicting, are you sure? Contradicting
Yeah.
everything you say, just
Mhm.
making you question yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. Uh.
But I don't know. I think I'd see Jin as the Mad Hatter.
Yeah, I was about to say that. Jin is the Mad Hatter or the
Yeah,
Maj
well,
Hatter.
yeah. If his, like, you know, his puns didn't have an answer. But yeah.
Could definitely see Jin as the Mad Hatter.
Yeah, yeah. I kind of see like Alice, like she could be couple of the people, a couple of the guys, just because they're curious and they like to like explore and things. Like, if anyone's watching Bon Voyage 3 on V Live, like Jimin has that quality. Like, again, it's like the Little Prince kind of thing, like curious and wants to like know about things, and J-Hope is a bit like that too, just kind of going with the flow and that kind of thing. Who would the Cheshire Cat be?
Let's see. I think that's who Yoongi would be.
Yogi the Cheshire Cat. Just kind of
Well,
appears
Just,
and disappears.
Just antagonizing and I don't know, playing with people, and that smile, that gummy smile.
Oh, yeah. I love that smile. Who's... Yeah. Well, I think, if any of you have ideas from other books, or you have differences of opinions about who they would be in Alice, let us know. I'm curious to see what other people think too. Let's keep moving. So initial thoughts on the story. For anyone who knows me well, they will know that Alice in Wonderland has been something I've loved since I was a little girl. Since I saw the Disney movie when I was little and sang along to In a World of My Own many, many times. Like it's been a favorite. So I personally love the story. I love the nonsense. I love the whimsy. I love the fact that it doesn't make sense. Because it just reminds me of being a kid and playing make-believe games where anything can happen. You don't have to play by the laws of physics or anything. Like, if you want to live on a cloud, like, you'll be playing that you live on a cloud, and the roads are made of candy or whatever. Like, it doesn't matter. And that's what I love about the story, that it is nonsensical. For me, that's a plus. But yeah, I'm very obsessed with Alice in Wonderland.
Yeah, it's like I like it because it's like one of your more interesting dreams that you actually remember. Like, that's what it's like.
Yeah.
And they really follow a dream logic, because that's how your dreams are. Just things are one thing one moment, and then all of a sudden there's something else, and that explains any illogical thing that's going on.
Yeah.
So, even recently I've had dreams where I'm like, I go to a public bathroom and it turns into a stadium, and I'm like, huh? I guess I went to a stadium instead. Funny. Sorry.
Yeah.
But it was mortifying for some reason.
Well, it would be. It would be.
Yeah, I had to go around proving, no, it's easy to mistake this stadium for a bathroom. That was the rest of the dream, just like proving, like a Seinfeld dream, just trying to prove that I wasn't crazy or stupid. Yeah. So that's why reading this book, because she goes from one thing to the next, and it just without questioning it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
What about you, AM and RG?
I
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead,
Come on,
Anne.
AM. Be honest.
okay. I really liked the movie, the Disney one, the animated
Mhm.
one, and also liked the Tim Burton one.
Mhm.
Mhm.
It has the dark um, feeling that I like
Mm.
of Tim
Mhm.
Burton.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I don't know if I expected what I watched in the book, or I don't know where, but talked so much about this book and the story and Alice, and I don't know. I just didn't feel it.
Yeah, that's okay. That's perfectly fine. It's not everyone's cup of tea, like, because the language is very, like, if you don't read like a modern version, like the language is quite, well, it is Victorian. It's
Oh,
Victorian
yeah.
English.
Mhm.
And so, like, it is
Oh,
very different.
yeah, I'm just actually curious. Like,
Yeah.
did you read it in Portuguese, AM?
Yeah, it was in
Yeah.
Portuguese.
Yeah, so it's such a everything. It's really about language and a play on
Mm.
words. So I just wonder. I'm curious now how you translate that,
Mm.
because it's about words that sound the same. It's about grammar
Yeah.
conversion, and yeah, I wonder if it comes across at all.
Maybe it.
It kind of sounds
Mm.
crazy in many languages actually. It's in, I don't know if it makes more sense in English, but I'll try.
Mm. It
I don't
probably
know. I don't
doesn't
think it will make
translate
me.
that well, honestly. Because I've noticed that here in Korea, like, even some, like, I don't, even with, like, the subtitles, like, for things, I'll be like, why is that wordplay funny? Like, I don't understand. Because it doesn't translate in English.
Yeah.
So I
Mhm.
think it's probably with this book, I think you probably do lose something in some of the translation. Mm.
Mhm.
Yeah. And what about you, Aji? What did
Translation.
you think?
Um, and I don't know yet. I mean, because I've seen the movie, and
Mhm.
Mm.
I guess because of the poems, and I don't know. It's
Mm.
okay.
I think with Alice, like, you really have to read it in historical context. Like, um, because, like,
Yeah,
it is set, like, it was written in Victorian England with
and I
children, like,
and I don't
they,
think there really were many children books, if any, at
no,
that point. It was like
there
kind of a
weren't
new
that many. It was
concept.
a very new kind of
Yeah.
genre. And because books were for adults, and the books children had
Mhm.
were just for school, and they were like, um, they were the kind of books where they would have to recite a lot of poems and things, and the stories they did have were like your fairy tales where they were like very moralistic and there was like a lesson, like they weren't
Mhm.
just for pleasure. And like, girls didn't go to school, they were taught by a governess, kind of like, which is why Alice was learning from one of the most boring sounding books, at the very
Mhm.
start of the book. And yeah, so I think, like, manners were very important. And
Mhm.
yeah. I think like when you read it coming from there, like you can see why there's so much wordplay, because it's kind of making a mockery of what children had to go through.
Yeah, I guess
Yeah,
that's a good point.
yeah. Well, let's keep moving along. So a little bit of housekeeping. Just so everybody knows, all the questions today were taken from two different sites, thoughtco.com and penguingroup.com. And I've edited some of them full length, and because we only read Alice's Adventures in Wonderland, not the, I guess you would call it the sequel, Alice Through the Looking Glass and What She Found There. So I had to cut out some of the questions from some of them because they weren't relevant to this book.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's start.
We almost could have done that. We almost could have done both because it was such
Yeah.
an easy read.
It was an easy read.
I'm glad it was such a quick read. It was a good break.
Yeah, it was a very good break. I don't think I would have been able to do. I mean, I would have if everyone at my work didn't get sick.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Jeez. Are there still some people in the hospital?
Yeah, there's. So, for those of you who don't know or who didn't see on Twitter, I was quite sick last week, but then so were all of the teachers at my academy, as well as all of the kindergarten students at my academy. We went on a field trip and ended up with salmonella food poisoning. My case was very, 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 very mild, and I didn't go to hospital. I didn't need to, and I am already back to normal now. But there are still 2 teachers in hospital, and a lot of the teachers are still suffering with some of the symptoms. But I can say this is the first and last time that I ever want to experience that.
Yeah.
But to everyone who wished me well, thank you. I'm fine. Yeah, but it was dehydration, so the other 2 teachers are in hospital because of complications from dehydration. So, yeah.
If you can't keep anything down,
No, couldn't keep anything down. Everything just, So it's the kidneys. So they're in hospital, so their kidneys can be monitored.
Oh, goodness.
Yeah, but they'll be fine. It's just going to take a little bit of time. So yeah, I'm glad it was not both books because I would have slept. I did a lot of sleeping. So yeah. Anyway, onto pleasanter things, like question 1.
Yeah, sorry.
No, that's okay. Thank you for caring. Why do you think that Alice is such a popular cultural icon? If you hadn't read the book before, did it mirror the image you had from pop culture? Explain.
As I said, I watched the movie, so I kind of expected what I already watched. So I don't know. It 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 it's totally different from the book the movies.
Yeah, the movies have to make a cohesive storyline, make it seem like it all goes together, but like this is just more random.
Yeah. I've noticed that the movies tend to put the 2 books together a lot. They don't separate them. Like the Disney one is a bunch of stuff mixed in.
Yeah, we don't have the unbirthdays.
Yeah. There was no unbirthday in this one. And you don't get the music.
Well,
you don't get the music in the books either.
Yeah.
I think that for me, I think Alice is really popular, first of all, because it's not really like any other children's literature and children's stories out there, which has, I mean, they might have magical things about it or fantastical things, but the stories themselves still make sense.
Mm-hmm.
And I think um and I think that's one of the reasons, because there is so much nonsense in it that, for kids, like maybe it's just fun, but I think it's the character of Alice herself that she's she's not like a silly little girl. She's just a little girl. It could be any little girl. And she goes on this fantastical adventure. And I think maybe that's what makes it popular, and the fact that it's been loved for such a long time. Yeah. I don't know why it's so popular.
Yeah. Well, it's like the imagery in it. It's just, it doesn't have to be, or it doesn't have to conform to something that is logical and consistent. So you can just imagine things that would never work.
Yeah.
That just don't have, that just can never work in a physical world. At least like in a fairy tale, a dragon kind of makes sense. It has
Yeah.
wings and makes it fly and it breathes fire, sure, but a cat that just disappears and becomes a smile, and then you have to wait for its ears to show back up, I guess.
Yeah.
So you can talk to it.
it.
So it can hear you. And it just stays like that, and then, and then it leaves. That's not something you could have in a cohesive story.
So, yeah. And I think because, I think another reason it might have become like a popular cultural icon definitely stems from, again, like the history of the time when it was written. Like it it goes against like everything, kind of pushes against the Victorian era, which was, everything made sense, everything had its rightful place and its rightful time, and it was very like legalistic, and you followed the rules, and this kind of just breaks all the rules, and kind of was, I guess, was like an escape. Like kids could read this book, and like they didn't have to worry about all of the rules and anything, because no rules really applied in Wonderland. And it let kids have imagination, I guess, and that anything is possible if you can imagine it. Then it can be, you can play it or you can write it. Or yeah, I think it may have offered like little kids kind of that freedom to dream crazy dreams. For me, like the reason that I connect with Alice is because she's very curious, and I've always been a very curious person myself. So like I relate to her, because I probably would have done a lot of the same things. Like, oh, this says eat me. I'll eat it. I'll see what happens.
Yeah. You just, at some point, you just go with it. You're like, okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
This is how things are now. That's fine. I eat something that makes me bigger. Sure.
Yeah. I'll drink this and see what happens. Yeah. Yeah. I'll follow this white rabbit with a pocket watch down this rabbit hole.
It is talking. Rabbits don't talk, so you know what? I gotta check this out.
Yeah. Yeah. That would have been me. What do you think, Aji?
One second. I think it's a popular cultural icon because of how like the dream and how we could relate to it, like having dreams and such. It's kind of like a common thing. So a lot of people maybe are like find it relatable in that case.
Oh yeah, it's like everybody knows what you're talking about, even though it's never been done before, kind of thing.
Yeah, and I think Disney also really helped turn it into a popular cultural icon, because I'm gonna be honest, until Disney, the illustrations for it weren't exactly cute. Kind of creepy is what they were.
Yeah.
And I think that helped take something which by then was like children's literature, classic children's literature, and turned it into something much more accessible, I guess, for a whole new bunch of kids. Hmm. Yeah. So I think Disney helped as well. Well, let's move on to the next question. Question 2. What are the conflicts in Alice's Adventures in Wonderland? What types of conflict, physical, moral, intellectual, or emotional, are they? I think there's quite a few different types of conflicts in the book, especially for, obviously, Alice. And I think a lot of them are, well, first of all, there's definitely the physical conflict of her size. Because she's big, she's small, she almost vanishes when her chin hits her foot, like, and then she has the neck like a giraffe, like just kind of like swaying in the breeze, like it's definitely a conflict. But I think most of it for her is intellectual.
Yeah, a lot of people being rude to her, and
Yeah,
and also just arguing with her on the basic status of reality.
yeah,
But yeah.
because I think for her a lot of the intellectual conflict comes from coming from a world where everything makes sense and it has order and she knows where she fits in and how to behave, and then she's in this world where none of that applies. And so everything she knows is considered to be wrong, or she can't apply the rules from her world to Wonderland because it doesn't work. And I think that's where her intellectual conflict comes from.
Yeah.
Mm. Yeah.
I love like when her neck goes really long and she goes above the tree and the pigeon's like yelling at her, calling her a serpent.
Yeah.
And she's like, I'm not a serpent, I'm a little girl. And she's like, I've seen little girls and they don't have necks like you.
Yeah.
And she's like, do you eat eggs? Well, yes, I do. Then you're a serpent.
Yeah.
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 I think
That's like classic like logic, grammar stuff.
Hmm.
I eat, what is it? Snakes eat eggs. I eat eggs, therefore I'm a snake.
Yeah.
Not necessarily.
I think it's something that really got me, because when she was talking with the dog, it was a
Mhm.
dog at the beginning. No, a rat. It was a rat, and she talked about her cat, and then she talked about the dog, and she would always mess up talking about how they're good at catching rats.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, like she's not code switching very well.
No, she's not. She's not. Yeah, and just even like the type of manners, like trying to be polite, things that she'd be praised for and be told that she was, oh, what a good girl. Like, not in Wonderland. Suddenly, she's being like, what are you doing? Um, and like it must be so confusing, and like, wait, what's happening? Like, children don't always handle change very well, and I think we see that in this book.
No, yeah. A child, if you're not used to talking to rats or mice, it hasn't occurred to you that maybe you should talk about your cat around them.
Yeah, Dinah is not the best topic of conversation.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm.
You know, I don't know why they didn't teach her that in etiquette school, but
Yeah. Why she didn't learn that you should avoid the subject of cats and dogs when talking to rats and mice and most animals, I would imagine, who are smaller than
that's
them.
true.
And I think for her too, there was also the emotional conflict of like, you know, when like a lot of the time, like one of the questions that seems to pop up a lot is like, she gets asked like, "Who are you?" a lot, and it's like, "Well, this is who I am." But the longer the book goes, like the less certain she is. Like, "Well, who am I? Well, I don't really know who I am.
She
Who am
starts
I?"
questioning it.
Yeah,
You know, yeah.
yeah,
Is she the same person if she's
yeah.
changing in size and
Well, you
everything?
know, she says she can't, you know, because that's one of the things she says. Like, I'm not the same person today that I was yesterday, and I really actually think that's quite deep, quite a deep
Oh
little
yeah.
sentence in the book. Because like, yeah, nobody stays the same. But when you're a child, how, like, this is a very extreme example, but like, you can't really wrap your head around that because when you're a child, you're just you. But I guess if you go into a land of nonsense, like, you have to, you're confronted with like, well, then who am I? What makes me me? What is it that makes me who I am? Um, and I think that's one of the conflicts that Alice has. Mm.
Yeah. And that's the conflict we all have when we find some of our assumptions about ourselves, or when we lose
Yeah,
them,
yeah,
lose those assumptions.
yeah. When something comes along to challenge what we have believed, and maybe we realize, well, oh, that was incorrect, or well, I don't believe that anymore. Well, then, well, now what am I left with?
Yeah. Yeah. Now, how do I come to my conclusions about life? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm surprised. I would wonder why, like, in this book, why there's so many angry people who are very violent.
Yeah.
There's so much just, violence played like it's normal, like it's
Mm.
not. People are just being violent, like off with the queen's, like off with your head, and the duchess and the cook are like throwing things,
And
and
the poor
it's
baby
just, and
that turns
nobody's
into a
acting
pig.
like it's unusual. Yeah,
Yeah,
baby turns into a pig,
yeah.
and it's a
Mm.
little hectic.
It is. It's a very hectic story, and must have come from a very intriguing mind.
Yeah.
Let's move along to question 3. So, traditionally, Alice's Adventures in Wonderland is considered a story for children. What do you think? Also, some people find material in Carroll's work, so not just this book but other stories of his as well, unsuitable for children. Are there parts of the story unfit or harmful for children? What are they?
I think the whole story is kind
Personally,
of harmful
go ahead, go ahead.
because, as MC just said, it's all of them are violent
Yeah.
and angry, and I don't know. I don't like Alice because she talks about eating animals, like not animals, but birds, and then she talks about I don't remember right now, but the eggs, and these are things that I don't agree with in humanity. So I was kind of pretty down through all the book.
Mm.
Oh, yeah. Well, it does make you think, because, like, normally you think of a human as being, like, in tune with all these type of animals, but in reality, like, you take a human, you put him with a bunch of anthropomorphized talking animals, like, the human's gonna be the villain.
Yeah,
The
yeah,
human's
Yeah.
gonna be the least favorite person in the, or or what call, they're not gonna like us because we eat and indiscriminately kill all of them.
yeah.
We are the They're
I
the ones destroying the world. Seriously.
hmm,
And she's very condescending to the animals too. Like she's a little bit more respectful to the queen and the duchess than she is to the like, oh, well you're here for my entertainment animal talking animal.
mm.
Yeah.
I think when it comes to this story, I think a lot of children wouldn't understand. Um, they wouldn't understand what was happening right now because the language is so different. Um, and I think that um, I don't think there's anything necessarily wrong with the story, but I think you'd have to have a modernized version for children today.
Mhm.
Um, because like I said, like a lot of the rhymes and the poems and that, like unless you're familiar with some of the things that from the era, kids are gonna be like, what does that word mean? What does that word mean? What's that? Because they're not English words we use anymore, really. Um, so yeah, I don't think it's necessarily unsuitable. I just think children wouldn't understand it. Which is
Mhm.
why I think, like they like the movie and that, but if they were to read the original story, they'd be like, probably get bored. They'd be like, I don't understand. What's a duchess? What's this? What's that?
Yeah.
What's a mock
Yeah,
turtle?
like let's see. I think there's something like called a mock turtle soup, and I'm not really sure what it is. So I think like a mock turtle would mean nothing to them,
Mm,
and the griffin is spelled differently than griffin normally is, but
yeah,
maybe they would care. I don't know.
yeah.
They might notice that.
And like the lobster quadrille, they'll be like, what's a quadrille?
Yeah.
You'd be
Like, is
like, you
that
know
from
what?
the
Let's
Hunger
just watch
Games?
the movie.
Yeah.
Let's just watch the
Yeah.
movie. Um,
Yes, at the BTS book club, we recommend that you watch the movie.
or just find a modern version, one where
Yeah,
the
there's
language is just
many.
changed a little bit.
Yeah, I think there's a popular kind of art house one that's stop motion animation,
Hmm.
but it's also creepy.
Yeah.
So never mind. But yeah.
I think like it's not a story I'd read. I will say this: it's not a story that I think is necessary for little children. It's not a little kid's book. It's not something you'd
Mhm.
read as a bedtime story to little kids. Um, like a chapter a night kind of thing, like my mom used to do.
Mhm.
I would say it's
Mhm.
definitely it would be for kind of like older children.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, but I don't think it's harmful to
Yeah.
children, especially not a child who
No.
knows the difference between fantasy and reality. Like if a child can
Yeah.
understand that and can separate the two, I don't think there's anything harmful in it.
Yeah.
Weird and strange, yes, but not harmful. Yeah. Hmm.
Yeah.
All right. Let's keep moving. Question 4. Alice rarely speaks nonsense and rarely enjoys when it is spoken to her. In fact, her speech and manners are quite proper. How has Alice's perception of the world changed when confronted with the world and characters of nonsense? She doesn't handle it well. um, I think she finds it very, like, it's very confronting for her because she doesn't know how to interact. Like, like you said, like with the rat or the mouse at the start, she just starts raving on about her cat Dinah and doesn't realize until she like looks and sees the reaction that, oh, this is not a good topic. but she doesn't know how to, but she can't, for the life of her, she can't get off the topic of animals that, can kill mice and rats. Like, she just is trying to make polite conversation.
Mm-hmm.
She doesn't have the skills.
Well, that's the thing. Like, I often notice are a lot of conversation is just you're not really trying to communicate information so much as the information that you're speaking. You're really trying to communicate, or you're just facilitating an interaction and a certain social constructed. Oh, what am I trying to say? I think when it's all nonsense, I think you get frustrated when you actually have to focus on what you're saying and what you mean
Yeah.
instead of it just being what you're expected to say, and then you've asserted your social status, and then you go about your day. I don't know.
Yeah.
So I think when you get rid of the basic presumptions and again assumptions, then people get kind of a little frustrated with
Yeah.
actually talking to other people.
Well,
Yeah.
I think like with Alice, like one of the things they notice is when she does speak, she's trying to show her knowledge of things. And I think that definitely comes from what children were expected to do. Like, they weren't really there to have conversations with adults and everything in the Victorian age. Like, they were there to be seen and not heard unless they were asked a question. And then they would have to respond to that question accordingly. And usually it was, like, it was to see, what they were learning in school or things like, to see what their education was like. And so I think Alice spends a lot of time trying to show that she has knowledge, but it doesn't make sense in this world. Like, the things that she has been taught, the same rules don't apply. And so, when they're asking her about things and she's giving them the correct answers, like a tea party. The man had a tea party when they talk about time and watches and things like that. None of it makes sense to her, and she doesn't know how to like handle it, and she ends up getting so frustrated because everything that makes sense to her is nonsense to them, and vice versa. But it
and the purpose of a tea party is just to have a nice social interaction and then leave.
Yeah. Yeah, she doesn't even get tea.
Yeah. She gets offered wine.
As should
even though there's
every
no wine.
child, weirdly. But I think her perception of the world does start to change because she starts to question the things that she's learned. And she starts to like think like, oh, well, actually, like with the whole serpent thing, like she realizes that even though what the bird is calling her a serpent is not correct, she can understand the bird's like why it's calling her a serpent in the end. Like, I think she thinks it's all nonsense and weird, but I think she can see that you can come and see things from different points of view. It's not black and white. Yeah. That's what I think. Do you have anything you wanted to add to any of these questions so far?
No.
I just want to say I totally understood Alice being frustrated when people started saying nonsense because I hate nonsense.
Oh, you do. I love nonsense.
Me too. I like nonsense.
I live off of it. It makes me laugh. I like things when they're poorly translated.
Yeah.
Like when somebody speak, or
Mm.
they. What was a recent like sign in China that says you? It said, translated in English, it was "You are not welcome," but it was probably supposed to say like, um, "No trespassing."
You are not welcome.
You are not welcome.
I think I can understand the frustration because I think I would get frustrated too if it reached that level of nonsense. I'd be like, this is just ridiculous. Like I've had enough. But reading it because I'm not the one having to go through it, I'm okay with that. All right, question 5, and this is halfway, so we're getting there. Do you find the characters likable? Are the characters persons you would want to meet? Actually, I do
Most
like the characters. Not because I think the characters are necessarily like friend
likable,
material.
nice.
Yeah, or nice, but because there's something appealing about them in their nonsensical ways. Like, as ridiculous as the Mad Hatter and the March Hare and the Dormouse
Yeah.
are,
Yeah,
like,
that's who I'd want to meet. I'd want to go to that tea
yeah,
party. I think
yeah,
I'd love it.
yeah. I think, like, as you know, for there's still a quality about them, and I think, like, for me, like, when the Mad Hatter's on one of the witnesses on trial,
Mhm.
um, I think that, um, I don't know, like, you see a little bit more of a human side to him when
Mhm.
he's, like, scared of this queen. And you're like, you know what? Yeah, he's ridiculous and crazy and clearly should never fix anything of a mechanical nature. Um, but, like, in this world, you know, like, he still has emotions and things and still, like, yeah, I just think if the characters made sense, the story would lose a lot. It wouldn't be as enjoyable. And when I was researching some of the characters, like the Mad Hatter, um, apparently in Victorian England, a lot of hatters did go mad because the there was a mercury in the
Mhm.
felt, so they're always working with this, and their body would build up, get this mercury buildup, and they would hallucinate and things like that. So, you know, go kind of crazy. They'd go mad, hence the
Mhm.
Mad Hatter. And I was like, oh. Um, but the only character I really disliked was the Duchess and was it the cook? The one with the little
Mhm.
pepper. Yeah. They're the only characters I really disliked. I was just like,
Well,
you
you don't
guys
want
are just,
somebody throwing pots and pans at you.
yeah, I mean, like, I don't know what your anger issue is, but it's clearly time to get over it. I mean, the Duchess, when you see her the second time, she's very different, but yeah, that's the only character I really didn't like. Would I want to meet any of them? Only the Mad Hatter, the March Hare, and Alice. I'd love to meet Alice.
I'd love to meet Bill, the lizard. I think he's so cute.
Oh,
Like
that's
like
yeah.
everyone talks bad at him, and tells him to do everything, and she's the one who suffers the most. But he's so cute.
True. True,
Yeah,
actually.
he does get like knocked over and picked up and put upside down and
Yeah.
Bill.
oh
Actually, yeah, because he also gets blown out of the chimney.
yeah.
Yeah.
Poor
Just
Bill.
trying to do his job.
Poor Bill the lizard.
Yeah.
Just wanted to write on the slate, but Alice took away his pencil. Or chalk.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he was using his finger.
Yeah.
Ah,
Poor him.
actually, I
I
think
think I'd
he's...
be up.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Uh,
Sorry.
no, go for it, go
Yeah.
for it. I was just thinking about poor little Bill, the lizard. Mm. I think I'd like to meet the Cheshire Cat too. Just
Yeah.
because out of all the craziness there, like his appearance seems the most crazy, but he also seems the most like to understand the world the best.
Hmm.
So I think he'd be interesting to talk to. Mm. Yeah.
Yeah. I'd like to talk to the caterpillar. I think I could stand just going back and forth with the caterpillar for a while. So.
See how angry you could make him. And I think it's interesting that he turns into a butterfly who gets angry, because butterflies are not something I would ever associate with anger. Because they're so gentle and pretty, and yeah, I would associate them with, I guess, more like sweetness, calmness, because they don't really fly fast or anything.
Yeah. They go
Well,
far though.
they do.
Have lots of passion to get there, get hundreds of miles.
Mm. Okay, so question number 6. Alice often exhibits mature characteristics, and the adult characters often exhibit childish behavior. Do you consider this book to be an adult's view of childhood or a child's view of adulthood?
Hmm.
I actually like this question.
Yeah. Definitely an adult's view of childhood. I
hmm,
think because yeah, well, it's a little bit more complicated than what a child would come up with. Because a
hmm,
child is very strict and they know the rules, and you don't learn things by you learn things by how they feel, or you learn language by what sounds right.
yeah,
You
yeah.
just have something in your brain that goes, okay, that sounds right, and and you learn behavior sort of the same way.
Hmm,
So I think that's why there's this sort of what's the word, intuitiveness about learning
mhm.
to be a person in the world, that a child is not gonna play with the rules because they're not gonna know the rules enough to break them.
Yeah.
So they're trying to assert the rules that they do know.
Mm.
Yeah. So it's definitely how an adult sees a child.
I
No, I
think,
agree with you.
yeah.
So, sorry.
I think it's kind of like an adult's view of how a child might see um,
Yeah.
an adult's world. Because when you're a child, like you look at adults and you see and you think like how wonderful it is, but you don't understand everything. It doesn't all make sense. Like, well, why are they doing that? Why do we have to do this? There's a lot of like that kind of thing. And I think knowing that like this was a story that was told for a specific little girl and her two sisters, like I think it was very much tailored for them, and maybe the things that they liked and maybe things that they would have recognized and found funny.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they would have liked
Yeah.
animals and
Yeah, so they would have, for all we
music
know,
and
Dinah, maybe Alice's favorite animal was a cat, or um, that kind of thing. Like, and I'm sure that some of the characters that he used, they would have recognized because their father was the dean at Oxford. So I think that they would have recognized characteristics in these characters from adults around them, and they would have found it probably very, very funny. And there probably would have been inside jokes that we will never understand,
No.
but they would have found very humorous because they saw these things, and from their view, they could completely understand what Carol, although that's not his real name, but like what he was saying in the story. So I kind of think it's his view of maybe how he thought they could see the adult world around them.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And also, you could, I think I could imagine with the nonsense poems, I could just imagine an adult, him coming up with the nonsense words for poems they're used to reciting, and they would be just giggling like crazy.
Yeah.
You know, twinkle, twinkle, little bat.
How I wonder
what you're
where
at.
you're at.
Yeah. And, you know, and I could just see little kids just loving that.
Yeah. I mean, and because that one,
because
we know the actual words to that one, so that one's funny, even for us. Like, you know, and like how doth the crocodile one. Like, I think it's the how doth the little bumblebee. I think that's the original. But it's about the crocodile in here, and just how, like, the wordplay is actually really clever. But yeah,
and
how
the more
for them,
serious you state it, the funnier it would be.
oh yeah, and I'm
more
sure
grandiose.
and I'm sure even the songs and that would probably have been to tunes that were popular at the time or that they recognized. And it would have been hilarious for them. So I think it's definitely an adult's view, but I think for me, I think it's what Carol thought maybe the girls could see in the adult world around them from their view. So his point of view of what they would think of adults, to the extreme, obviously. Yeah.
Yeah, I almost feel like they would see them as I see children. I think to a child these stories would be a little bit irreverent.
Oh yeah.
Too, in a sense. Just because it doesn't. Again, what's the simple term I'm thinking of? It subverts expectations. So like I could just see children listening and giggling just like they're in on an inside joke.
Yeah, I'm being shocked because I mean, like, Oxford is a very proper school. You know, it's very prim, very proper, very, you know, lots of, and I'm imagining the Victorian age, like there were lots of rules and it was for gentlemen. It was, you know, gentlemen with money and obviously very smart would have gotten to Oxford. So, and their father being the dean, they would have been surrounded by that. So the primness and the properness and these very intellectual discussions and things like that would have bored them silly, no doubt. And then to have these kind of stories to escape to must have been so much fun for them. Yeah. Let us move along to question 7. What is the central, primary purpose of the story? Is the purpose important or meaningful? Well, I think we kind of just covered that a little bit in question 6 as well. Like, Carol used to, so when I was at university, I did a children's literature course, and so Carol came up in it. And he did, like, he used to tell just verbally stories to Alice and her two sisters, because he cared about them. They were friends, and they were obviously very comfortable with him. And then one day Alice asked him to write down one of the stories he told, and it happened to be this one, so he did. And I don't think there's any necessarily like I know there's a lot of theories about like the meaning behind it and everything, and I'm sure that he did get inspiration from people around him and things like that. But I think the primary purpose of the story was to make the girls laugh and to entertain 3 children.
To delight and entertain.
Yeah, to delight, to entertain, and to give them some comic relief from what I'm sure was quite, they probably had quite a high education. A lot was probably expected of them, as their father was obviously a very important man in obviously educational circles. So,
I think,
yeah.
Yeah.
That's all I was going to say. So I think that was the purpose, the main purpose, and I think that's why it's meaningful, because it was meant for fun. Yeah. And satire. There's quite a bit of satire in there.
Yeah. That's like that art. Did any of you read the article I posted earlier
Yeah,
today?
I did.
On the Twitter page. Lewis Carroll was a mathematician, and I think 3 of the stories in here basically just following the logic of other mathematicians, other theorists in the day, like him just mocking their theories. And was it the Pig and Pepper one and the Mad Hatter? Was all him just basically taking their mathematical theories and just making and using a kind of a solid real world example that would make and taking them to a logical conclusion and just showing how ridiculous it all is. So like the Mad Tea Party does follow a certain theory that I can't even begin to remember what it's called or explain.
It's in the article.
But yeah. It doesn't say if any of those theories turned out to be, I guess we do use, I don't think Lewis Carroll liked imaginary numbers, but I think we do use imaginary numbers today for things. But I don't know. I can't remember.
I'm not a mathematician.
I think I knew at some point. Yeah. I could do some algebra.
Oh, I hate algebra. Ugh, I don't like math.
I'm not as good at math. I'm not as good at math as I would like to be.
I'm better with words. Give me words over numbers any day.
Yeah. And when I took a logic class, and that and grammar is kind of logic is just a certain math formula. I did not enjoy logic, sadly. But so I guess I'm not that logical then. I don't know. But it's A therefore B kind of things. Sticking to certain
very
rules.
Linear thinking, that kind of Greek linear thinking.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm very much, and I think it's probably why teaching is a good profession for me. Is I love creativity, I love imagination, I love thinking outside the box. So logic and I don't always go hand in hand.
Don't need it.
I'll say, oh yeah, someone will say something. Someone will say something, and I'll be like, jump to like conclusion F, and everyone's like, how did you get there? And I'm like, oh well, I followed these 15 different tangents, and that's how I reached my conclusion.
Yeah.
And they're like, most people would have just said this. I'm like, well, I'm not most people. So yeah, I think definitely there is in the book definitely a comment on the world that Carol was living in and the things that he found ridiculous about it. But I still think the primary purpose was just to delight, to entertain, and to have fun with 3 children. Yeah. Let's move along to question number 8. We're getting closer to the end. How essential is the setting to the story? Could the story have taken place anywhere else? Besides the obvious absurdities and imagery, what other aspects of the book mimics a dream state? I think the setting is kind of what makes this book what it is. I don't think you could have it anywhere. It couldn't be in like a schoolroom in London. It couldn't be at Oxford. It couldn't be in a forest somewhere. I think it had to be in like a separate reality. A new land, a wonderland.
Place with its own rules.
Yeah, a place that has its own rules, that doesn't have to be confined to any of the laws that govern the earth. You know, like physics and anything like that, like time and all those things that, you know, we live in the constraints of don't apply. In Wonderland, anything can happen and anything kind of goes. And I think that's why it works, because in Wonderland you don't have to have time the way it is here. You don't have to have well, anything. It can just be what it is.
And physical space doesn't work the same way. It's things.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't.
Well, a small door can lead to a large garden, you know.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah.
It's the one thing that makes it all dream-like.
Oh, is what?
And as to the dream state, I think besides, like, you know, her neck growing and, you know, like lots of things, like it says, the imagery, I think just the way things happen and the way she gets from place to place, things like that is like a dream state. Because, you know, in a dream, like you said before, MC, like you'll go through one door in one place and suddenly you're in like an entirely different place, and it makes no sense because you would never go through a door and get to that place. Or, you know, you're physically in one area and then you're like hundreds of kilometers or miles away somewhere else in the blink of an eye. And I think the other thing with like dreams often is there's still some things that are familiar, things that we kind of recognize, but they're just taken to extremes, or there's just something kind of twisted about it. And I think we see that a lot in Alice. Like things like tea parties and things like croquet. And even the cook with the baby, you know, things like this, which are things she would have seen. Probably hadn't been to court, but her governess was reading about, you know, like the legal system and government and things when she fell asleep, and suddenly she's in a courtroom and there's a king and a queen, and so, you know, Queen Victoria was obviously ruling at the time, and I think there was a lot that was familiar, but it was twisted just that much so it didn't make sense, and I think that's like most dreams.
And you go along with it. Like, oh, okay, yeah, all right.
Yeah.
All right, I guess you're a pig now, you know? I like you more as a pig. Yeah. You can take care of yourself now. I don't need to hold you anymore. Live freely, pig.
Such a weird thing in the book. I'm just like, what is this?
Yeah. Yeah, it's almost, yeah, to see that visually in a movie is a little horrifying, a little
Mm,
bit more horrifying to just than to just think about it.
I can see why they left it out of the Disney version, just
Oh yeah,
quietly.
yeah.
Um, yeah, I think, and even conversations like in dreams, even things like that, they don't always make sense. Like someone will say something to you, and then you turn around, and suddenly they've completely changed appearances, and um, you'll be discussing something else, or suddenly you'll just be eating or something weird like that. So I
Mhm.
think
Mhm.
just the flow of things as well, like it just the landscape in Wonderland chops and changes a lot too.
Yeah. Well, doesn't she at the end? She just starts growing even without eating anything.
Yeah,
So
like
even
she's
like there's no
coming out of her
consistent.
sleep. Mm,
Yeah. Well, there's no consistency even in Wonderland. They're like, you know,
yeah.
like she didn't eat any. It doesn't follow its own rules.
Mm, mm,
You know.
doesn't. There are no rules in Wonderland.
No. What happens in Wonderland can happen in Wonderland. I don't
And
know.
clearly stays in
Or,
Wonderland.
yeah.
uh, well, let's move along. Question 9. Throughout her adventures, Alice grapples with her identity. What philosophical issues about identity does Alice raise? I think one of the issues that comes up is like people find their identity a lot and kind of in their surroundings. So like we get comfortable with in the society that we're in, most of us, not everybody, most of us, like we get used to a routine, to a pattern. We know where we fit in with work or school or family and home life, and we get comfortable in that. But like if something is taken away, like say you lose your job or you graduate from school or you move away from like where you've been for a long time, like you're still the same person, but often you're like, well, now how do I fit in? Now what
Mhm.
makes me a valuable part of this society or something like that? Because you have to like redefine certain parts of your life. And I
Mhm.
think that happens with Alice. Suddenly she's like, oh, I'm not being told that I'm smart or that I'm doing a good job because I know this, I can recite this and I can answer this question. They're not, things that would she'd get praised for. She's not getting that
Yeah.
anymore. And when she gets
Yeah.
asked, who are you? She's like, well, I'm a little girl, but who are you? And it's like,
Mhm.
well, that is who I am. But
Mhm.
then she's like, well, then who am I? If I'm not just a little girl, then who am I? Like, and what am I? And I think that's something that everybody has to answer for themselves at some point, whether it's a conscious thing or not. Maybe it's subconscious, but yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. If you don't look the same as you did before, are you the same person? Are you the
Hmm.
same person you were when you go to bed that you were when you woke up that morning?
Yeah.
And yeah, and as you said, like she expects to be treated like a little girl and learns very quickly that that's just not how they're going to treat her in Wonderland. I think she
Hmm.
adapts pretty well to know know that here we go again.
Yeah. Yeah.
That she has to learn how her place with each new person she meets.
Mm. And what's expected of her as well, because everyone seems
Mhm.
to expect something completely different. Um,
Mhm.
and life's like that. Different people expect different things from us, and some
Mhm.
people adjust and are good at that. Some people are not so good at that, and um, yeah, I think like the question of like, who are you? I think that's a huge theme that runs throughout the stories.
That's true.
Yeah.
And
I think adjusting, an advantage in adjusting to that is to kind of approach things kind of with a childlike demeanor and wonder and just, accepting that you'll make a few mistakes.
yeah. And I mean, honestly, she seems like quite a well-adjusted little girl to go through all of this and come out the way she does. And she wakes up just to be like, oh, guess what? Guess what I dreamed? And then, but I think like with this one, like when they ask her like, who are you? It's like, well, if the world around us doesn't make sense to us, is that a question we can even answer, or do we need things to be defined around us for us to be able to know that? Like it poses a lot of questions, and I don't know if it's intentional, maybe not, but it does bring up a lot of questions about who we are and what makes us who we are.
Yep.
Questions I'm not even going to attempt to answer because philosophy is not my thing. It makes my brain hurt.
I majored in philosophy, but don't ask me. I don't know why. Yeah, were you gonna say something, Am?
Yeah, I just want to say that it's something I think everyone goes through daily. Because we have many parts in our lives. Like we have the family part, we have the neighborhood part, we have the work part, and when you gather it all together, is it you? Which part of it is you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The parts are you. The parts are the whole or the sum of your parts. Or
Yeah.
yeah.
If
And
you're truly you only when you're home alone, or when you're with your mom shopping, or I don't know.
yeah. Mhm.
Mm.
And how much does it matter? No.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, I wanted to. I was forced to study what free will instead of identity,
Free
philosophy
will
of
and
identity.
predestination and everything like that.
Yeah, yeah. We focused on that my senior year, and I was like, dang it. So yeah, never mind.
That one, well, I think you will always have arguments because everybody has their own opinions. Yeah. All right, this is the last question we have. Question 10. So, how does Carol use poetry and wordplay in this story? Why do you think he did this? Well, he uses wordplay a lot. And he
Yeah, I
uses
love
like
it.
poetry songs a lot. And I think I personally love it too. I think it adds to the story. It makes it a little less, I guess, just word heavy. It breaks up a little bit. And I think for children in the time, it was probably easy to relate to because that's how they had a lot of their lessons. They had to recite verse and things like that. So it was a familiar, like we mentioned before, like it would have been familiar to children at the time, that kind of style of learning, and so it would have been just funny to them to have something that was so serious, and they probably got in trouble if they recited incorrectly. To have that be like a nonsense rhyme was probably really hilarious. And I think sometimes the wordplay and the way he changes the rhymes to kind of be nonsensical, I think that that's where a lot of the satire comes in, and kind of some social commentary as well about the ridiculousness of what was expected in society, and things like that. Yeah.
Oh yeah. And was it like playing words about a porpoise to have a porpoise.
Yeah.
Do you have a porpoise?
That was with the.
I forget what it said. Wait.
Let me just grab my book. Hang on.
This is a lobster cracker.
I don't have an opinion about it.
Okay, so I have my very cutely illustrated book here. Yeah, that was with the griffin and the mock turtle when they were talking about lessons. And that poor mock turtle, he was just sobbing away. Yeah. When she was asking them about what the lessons were like, and they were talking about like whiting, like the fish, the whiting.
Yeah.
Well, how do you make your shoes shiny? Well, we use blacking. Well, in the sea, we use whiting. It was just like all these opposites. Let's see, because they were talking about the lobster quadrille and the dance. Where's the crab?
Trying to find it, but oh well.
Yes. Yeah, so they talk about the lessons and, like, let's see. Well, it talked about day school, going to school, and so, and there were extras, so obviously beyond like reading, writing, and arithmetic. Like Alice said, they did French and music, and the motto was like, I'm washing, because they did French music and washing in the C school. And the different branches, so they did reeling and writhing instead of reading and writing. And the arithmetic was ambition, distraction, uglification, and derision instead of addition, subtraction, division, and multiplication.
And yet it's all said like he's really just being pompous and making it all up. Like he's just got a little ego, and he's just like, or he's got a big ego but like little self-esteem, and he's just trying to say a bunch of stuff to make himself sound important.
And it's like everything that we would do in school, it's a little different for what the mock turtle and the griffin did. They did mystery instead of history, ancient and modern. And they did drawing instead of art. They did drawing, stretching, and fainting in coils. And instead of, so all these little things were just a little bit the same, but just that hilarious. And then the reason the reason the classes were called lessons, well, because the hours they went lessened each day. That's when they were lessons. And then the word play again with the Duchess, with all the very familiar sayings. Do you remember that?
This one joke about the lesson. I think we don't have it in Portuguese. Like, seriously, it makes sense. Lesson.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think sometimes it has to be like things do get lost a little bit in translation. Where were they doing? Oh, was that the croquet game with the Duchess? And she's going on and on about, well, that's why we say, and that's why we say. And
yeah.
Yeah.
And that it just makes me think again, like just I don't know if you have like a conversation with just, especially in the South, with older women,
Mm.
and they're just saying a bunch of nonsense, and they'll just
Yeah.
come to, as the Duchess did, any old rule about something
Yeah.
without like verifying it.
Yeah. Like
You
every story has a moral if you can find it, which I think
yeah.
was a little bit of Carol's way of saying like any stories children were told back then were not for enjoyment. It was to teach a lesson. Like Hansel and Gretel, or like don't be greedy now, you get eaten by a witch, or like all these different things. Like Grimm's fairy tales were really quite grim. Um, oh yeah, here it is.
Oh yeah.
So the games, there's about croquet and and then that the game must go on or something, and then the Duchess is like, oh yes, and the moral of that is, oh, 'tis love that makes the world go round. And like just how the Duchess has to find a moral in everything, even though it doesn't make any sense whatsoever, or she's twisted up the reason. Yeah, I think the wordplay is very clever, but it certainly makes sections funnier than they otherwise would be, and probably were even funnier in the day it was written. Well, time for any final thoughts and or theories. My final thought is I love the book. I have always loved Alice in Wonderland, and I always will. As for theories,
I'll try to read this in English. I don't know, maybe it's funnier in English.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if you have the copy in Portuguese, then. But if you read the English, then if you're not quite sure about something, you can always just check it up in the Portuguese one. But some things don't translate very well.
Yeah, and I'd like to hear if it is from you, if it is better in English.
Yeah.
If it is funnier when you read it in English. So, or it makes more sense.
I don't really have any theories about this one with BTS. I mean, I know that.
Yeah,
I think it's just something that I know because there was an art exhibition here, like a media art exhibition that I went to.
Oh, did you go to that?
Well, I went to it.
Tell me all about it.
Okay. So it was called down the rabbit hole, into the rabbit hole, and I went last year, and it was amazing. So there was a huge lineup, and when you first go in, like you're going down the rabbit hole, and it has like different signs, like neon signs everywhere, and then it has this huge like kind of cool looking forest with like video, like TV screen, like big screen things with like these video things on it, kind of like you're going into the actual rabbit hole, and then you just pass through a series of rooms, and each room is like another section, and then like you're going down the rabbit hole, and it's this trippy room with all these swirls and spirals. I was thinking of the 60s. I'm like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Austin Powers-esque swirls and things, and like it wasn't so trippy to the point where like it gave you a headache or anything, but it was, I mean, that was just like one room, so I didn't spend much time there. But then when you kind of get into the Wonderland area, there was a room that like the lighting was all blue, and there was furniture suspended from the ceiling to kind of be like the pool of tears, and so you could like take cool photographs in there, and like there was.
Yeah, I've seen some pictures online. Few.
Yeah, it was so
And
much
it
fun. I
and it
loved
had
it.
was there sound and stuff
Yeah, there was
in every
sound and
room,
yeah,
or was
yeah, there was sound. You know the because it was the full combination of like the Alice stories. So then there was the chess board room, and you could like
hmm
play a game there, and you watch this video, and that was projected onto the wall, and that was one of my favorite rooms. Um, there
that sounds
was
cool.
like these mirrors where you would look in the mirror and you would see different types of images of Alice in the mirror. Um, there was this cabinet full of little bottles with like drink me and keys and things,
Mhm.
and then you had Alice's room, which there was a huge line to get in there, but of course I lined up to go in. And the
Oh yeah.
inside of it was like a garden, like the walls just had flowers everywhere, and it was really, really beautiful in there. I loved that room. I'm like, oh, I could totally live in this room. It'd be weird because it's an art exhibition, but you know.
Yeah.
Um, and then
hmm
like there were these bikes that you could pedal, and then you could like watch something because the bike made it go and it made things
Oh
turn and
yeah.
move, and it was a lot of fun. And then afterwards there was a store, and I
oh.
bought. So I have a flamingo pen, like the croquet flamingo, and
Oh
I
cool.
got notebook, I got I got a teacup and an Alice in Wonderland teacup and saucer, and they did have a flamingo tea set, but I was like, oh, it's like $200, and I really, really want it,
Yeah.
but I don't need it. Um,
Don't
but
need it. I
then
don't think.
months later, who starts? I noticed this picture because there was this one room, and in it has these hanging mirrors, and it's like
hmm
truth or a lie. So it was in, and it had like, who am I there? And I saw one of these pictures that RM posted on Twitter, and I'm like, that looks exactly like a picture I took. Like, exactly like a picture I took. And I'm like, he went to the same exhibition I did months
That's cool.
later, of course, just before, not long before it ended, because they have a new one up now about, it's called Sugar Planet, Planet Sugar or something. I'm going next month, but I
hmm
was just like, no, why didn't I go then? Why did I go when it opened?
Oh, what's Planet Sugar?
So it's something similar, but it's like confection, but it's more confectionery themed. So there's a
Oh
room where
no.
they have like these huge inflatable like gummy bears and everything. It's called the jelly room, and you can like bounce
Oh.
off the walls. And then they have like a chocolate chip ball pit kind of thing. It's not real chocolate
um.
chips, of
Well.
course, but which is a bit sad, but
Yeah.
um,
It's sad but logical.
sad but logical, yeah. And I got from the Alice in Wonderland one, I got a little ticket thing, and you put in your
hmm
birth date, and it prints out a quote from the book. It's in Korean though, so you know I had to
Oh.
get help
Yeah.
translating. But it then says like Merry on birthday,
Hmm.
because obviously it wasn't my birthday, so very happy on birthday to me. But it was so much fun,
Awesome.
and I I know that it's going to be in some other countries, like it's not a Korean thing per se.
hmm Yeah.
Because I
Like I think it went to
yeah,
Beijing,
so
and I don't know what
yeah,
else it's
so
done
if
from there.
any of you get a chance to go to into the rabbit
hmm
hole or down there, I can't remember exactly what it's called now.
hmm
If you like Alice in
Yeah, it's
Wonderland,
into the.
go, 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 go!
Yeah,
It's
it
a
sounds
lot of fun.
awesome.
It's a lot
Yeah,
of fun. It's good.
yeah,
It's good for photo opportunities. That's what it's best for. So take a camera,
yeah,
get dolled up a little bit,
yeah.
and get snap happy because it's a lot of fun.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah,
and
I
yeah,
think that's the interesting thing, that it's the visual aspect that probably translates better across
mm,
languages and cultures than just the book itself
yeah,
and the
yeah,
wordplay.
and that it's like something that's loved, like the whole pop, like the
hmm
pop culture that that has embraced Alice is huge, and I don't think it's going away anytime soon, because I think it's just something that, although the words might not age that well, like the idea behind it and the magicalness of it and the nonsense and the whimsy, like that's kind of classic. That's timeless. So if you get a chance, go. RM enjoyed it. So did I. So you know, with us two behind it, you should go. But yeah, it was a lot of fun, and that's the only real connection I've seen. I haven't seen it in music videos or anything, or even any of their photo shoots or anything. I haven't really seen that kind of style. I'd love to see like a Mad Tea Party themed photo shoot with them. I think it would be crazy cool. But yeah.
Yeah, that's what I call fan service. That would be.
Yeah, I'd be like, heck
do the Mad Tea Party!
Alice and BTS, yay!
Do a croquet party with flamingos.
You know what?
Do a croquet party with flamingos and hedgehogs. Somehow.
Mismatched tea sets. I think they'd pull it off. They'd be amazing. Yeah, they'd look so cool. Yeah. The BTS.
Yeah.
Mad Hatter's Tea Party. That'd be a really cool poster, actually. I want that on my wall. Yeah. I've got to stop fantasizing about that. Okay. Any other final thoughts and theories?
No. My brain is gone to mush.
Yeah, that's okay. Well, that's all for this month's book, Alice. If you enjoyed the book, let us know. Let us know your thoughts about it. Let us know if you have any theories, because clearly we don't. Except the theory that I need to time my trips to art exhibitions a lot better. So, thank you for joining us.
You have to have a full-on agenda and plan before you go out to an art exhibition.
That's right. You need to time it, because you never know who will be there at the same time you are. Lots of other people were there at the same time I was. None of them were BTS.
I think that's anyone whose bias is named June, like, that's the massive hill. He keeps posting these pictures of himself going to art expeditions and going on nature walks, and I'm like, stop it!
I know. I was so excited and then so disappointed when I'm like, I've been there! But I went months ago and you've just gone recently. He probably also didn't go in the middle of the day like I did, but you know.
Yeah.
Yep, and
on the up and up there.
Yeah. Until next time, if you don't already, you should follow us on Twitter, say hi, join in the fun, send us DMs if you have any book suggestions as well, because there will come a day, because they're on tour right now, that we will need to branch out from just their recommended books.
We're just hoping, we're still waiting for more, like, we are afraid there will be a day when there are no more BTS book recommendations.
I know.
So they need to get on top of that. There's been a few so far, but they're all in Korean only.
Yeah. So we can't, unless they're translated into English, it's going to take a long time for us to get to those. Korean lessons, here we come.
We're waiting and willing.
Yeah. But please DM us with book suggestions as well, ones that you think we should read as a book club, or and if you think there's something BTS would like as well, then even better, since we're a BTS book club. And yeah, just make sure you come and say hi and talk to us. We like to get to know you guys and talk to our fellow ARMY. So our handle is at BTS Book Club _TWT, which is on the screen if you're watching somewhere. And hopefully we hear from you guys soon. Until then, have a great month and happy reading, happy listening, And if you're lucky enough to go to the concert, know that I am extremely jealous, but very happy for you, but very jealous and still happy. But there's some jealousy there.
We're very happy for RG.
RG, we're exceedingly happy for you. Yes. We're glad that you could enjoy it for all of us who couldn't go.
Yes, yes. We're all living through RG right
Yes,
now.
we are vicariously living through the tens of thousands of you who have managed to get tickets, and yet we are not two of them.
Yeah.
One day, MC,
Yeah.
we will
Yes,
go.
yes, yeah.
We will be in that number.
So they better take care of themselves, stay in
Yes.
good health, be ready for another tour.
Yes. You know what I'm really curious to know is what they're gonna do next. I know we've just gotten Love Yourself Answer, which is an amazing album, and it's high rotation. I can't stop listening to it. But
Oh yeah.
I'm just wondering, what are they going to do next? What kind of concept is it going to be? Because this has been the concept for so long.
Yeah.
Who knows? I guess
Yeah.
it will depend
I
on what
think
they've been reading.
I'm a little too confident in them. I'm like, it's gonna be great. I just know it.
Yeah, well, you know what? It is going to be
Yeah.
great because it's
Yeah.
them, and because they don't cut corners. They certainly put in the thought and the work, and apparently they're already working on it. So I mean, good thing these guys love what they do.
Oh yeah. They're like an artist commune.
They really are.
That's how they're like a musical theater camp.
Never ends. I never want them to end. They're just fantastic.
Yeah, that's the scary part. It's like, wait a second.
They're not allowed to grow up anymore. They just have to. When we're all old and have grandkids or even great grandkids, and we're all sitting on our rocking chairs on the front porch, looking at the young kids, I still want them to be releasing music. The dance moves might be a little different. But,
we'll live up wheelchairs on stage, and well, by then they'll probably have cyborg bodies, so we'll be okay.
Yeah, we'll be fine with those hip replacements and everything. Yeah, we'll be fine.
Oh, yeah. I mean, they're gonna get those when they're like 30. They're dancing, so with all that dancing, they're gonna be in wheelchairs by the time they're 30.
I hope not. Look after yourselves, boys, because I know you're clearly listening right now to this rambling.
Take care of those joints.
Make sure you take care of your joints.
But do what's best for you.
Yeah. Yeah. Make sure you look after yourselves. And to all you army out there, make sure you look after yourselves as well, because health is not something to be underrated. It's great. And on that note, which has nothing to do with anything that we've been talking about, have a great day or night or evening or afternoon, whatever time it is, wherever you are.